All right, so today we're going to be learning Chapter 7.1, Writing Expressions and Equations, starting with translating verbal phrases and verbal sentences. Okay, so the first thing you need to know, and you do need to write this down in your notes, is just a few terms. Some of these terms we'll look at today. Some of them will come later in the chapter, but you do need to know them. That's why it's important to write them down. The first is an equation. An equation occurs when both sides of the equal sign are equal to each other. So a basic equation would be 2 plus 3 equals 5. Well, what's 2 plus 3? 5. So it is true that 5 equals 5. So that is a true equation. Now in this chapter, we're going to deal with variables that can only have one value. Like if I said n plus 3 equals 5, what is the only value that could make this equation true? 2. That's the only number. If I put 1 in there, is 1 plus 3 5? No, there's only one number that can make the equation true. And that leads us to our next term, a variable. A variable is a letter that is used to represent a number. In this case, the variable represents the number, what? You can answer. There in the example, it represents the number 2, right? So a variable represents a number. In an equation, the variable can only have one value to make the equation true, to make both sides equal each other. In an inequality, you can have many values, hundreds, thousands of values that can make an inequality true. So it doesn't just have one answer. You use a less than or a greater than sign to write an inequality. Okay, and we're going to learn that later in the chapter. But you do need to be able to recognize the difference. All right, so now that leads us into what specifically we're learning today. I know before you panic, you don't have to write down all of these words. If you look on page 317, there is a chart right there on page 317 with all of these key words. Now, you don't have to write them down, but you must remember them, okay? You must be able to recognize them. So even though you don't have to write them in your notes, doesn't mean that they're not important, that you don't have to know them. Now, there's a couple that I want to highlight, okay? What do these three terms have in common that I just circled? They have the word than, okay? Now, anytime I see these key words, and this will only occur with addition or subtraction, the number that is more than or less than will go second, and you'll see that in the next example that we're about to work. The rest of these terms, I'm just reading it left to right, as if I was reading a book, okay? We read these verbal sentences left to right, and we write down on the translation. Okay, so you need to watch out for those three words. Those can be a little bit confusing. All right. Let's go on to let's review this really fast. Okay, so we're matching the key words. So class altogether, difference of would be what operation? Do we need to go back?
Dividing.
Difference. Okay, let's go back. Okay, addition keywords. Addition keywords. Plus, sum of, increase by, total, more than, added to. Subtraction keywords. Minus, difference of, decrease by, fewer than, less than, subtracted from. Multiplication, times, product of, multiplied by, or of. Division, divided by, quotient of. Okay, so there's your keywords. So now, what operation matches the key word? Difference of, subtraction, divided by. That one's so easy. Number 3, times. Number 4, minus. Number 5, plus. Number 6, fewer than. Subtraction, and it comes second. Number 7, total. Addition. Very good. Okay, now we're ready for example 1. Keep those key words in mind. Now, in example A, what is the key word there? Someone raise your hand and tell me, what is the key word, McKee? Increased. And that is what operation? Addition. Now, increase by, all right, that's just one of my standard addition keywords. So I'm just going to fill in the rest. A number, that's a variable. And I'm going to use the variable n to represent it because n for number, it kind of makes sense. If you want to use a different variable, that's perfectly fine. It just needs to be in the right place. So this expression would be n plus 5, and that's it. Now on B, what's my key word? Or words? What's my key word? Justin?
Less than.
Less than. And remember what I just said. Whenever you have the keywords less than or fewer than, we're taking that number away, so it needs to come second. So now, less than indicates subtraction, but the number is going to come second. 7 less than a number. I'm taking 7 away from some number. Okay, so it's almost like it goes backwards. If it were to say 7 minus a number, it would just be 7 minus n. But because it says less than a number, it needs to come second. Okay, now let's look at C. What's the key word that you see with C? You see what? What's the key word? Warsay? More than. More than. Okay, so now, does somebody want to take a shot at what the expression is going to be? Justin?
Multiplication.
Okay, well, where do you see multiplication? What's the key word?
Twice.
Twice, right? Twice. Okay, so we have more than, which is addition. But now, does 3 go first or does it go second? Does it go before the addition sign or after the addition sign?
After.
It goes after because it's more than, okay? It needs to go after. So 3 goes after. And how would I represent twice a number? How would I represent twice a number? How do I say twice a number? I'm saying 2 times a number, right? And I represent that, and don't miss this because you're about to do some on your own. 2n. 2n, that's it. Don't do the little x to show multiplication. Don't use that little x. Don't do that. Okay? It's just 2n. 2n plus 3. Now on D, I've got decreased by, and I have quotient. So I have 2 operations here. 4 decreased by the quotient, which is what operation? Come on, guys. Division. The quotient of a number and 7. Or you could write it 4 minus n divided by 7. You could write it either way. Okay? All right. Everybody have those written down? You need another minute? All right. Now I want you to do these 4 on your own. You do not have to write the original problem. All I need is your answer on your paper. So go ahead and work on these. I'm going to walk around and kind of check them. Okay, so A should have been what, class? N minus 17. B? N over 7 or n divided by 7. We're just reading it left to right, okay? 6 times a number plus 3. Remember, we write that 6n plus 3. If you wrote 6 and a little x times n, okay, that's going to be minus 1. Do not do that. Just write the number and the variable together. Then on D, 5 decreased by the product of 4 and a number. 5 minus 4n. Raise your hand if you got them all right. Okay, very good. Very good. All right, one more example. Now here's the only difference. I need you quiet, please, and paying attention. The only difference here is now I have a verbal what? Sentence. A verbal sentence, which means I have an equal sign. I have an equal sign now. What key word in the first example do you think represents the equal sign? McKee? No, the equal sign. What key word represents the equal sign? Justin? The word is. Okay, so my keywords here. Okay, so is one of the key words. Equals, okay, that's kind of obvious. That's another key word that would show me the equal sign. Okay, so I need to make sure that I put it in the correct place. I'm reading this left to right, and I'm looking for my key words. So in the first one, what's my key word?
Increased.
Increased by. Very good. So that's just a standard word. It doesn't mean I have to reorder the numbers, so now I'm just going to read it left to right. 16 increased by, that's addition, a number is 27. Now we're actually going to solve this in some of the later sections, but in this section, all I care about is you writing the expression. Okay, that's it. So now let's look at the second one. The difference of twice a number and 3 equals -4. All right, so what are my key words? Difference and twice. Okay, so how would I represent twice a number? Okay, multiplication, so how would I write it? Twice a number, how would I write it? 2n. 2n, twice a number. And 3, and what operation separates them? The minus sign. 2n minus 3 because I have difference. Difference means subtraction. Equals -4. Okay, what about C? What's my key word? Product of 1/2 and a number is 36. All right, now on D, I have some interesting wording in this one, okay? And this is one that you're just going to have to be able to pick up on whenever you see it. It'll become more and more obvious the more practice you have. But here, we have the term twice the sum. Do you see those operations back to back like that? Twice the sum of? Okay, anytime you see that, that means you're going to have parentheses. But let's go back to the beginning. -3 is equal to, wait a second, equal is right there at the beginning. That means that your equal sign needs to be at the beginning of your expression. -3 equals twice the sum of a number and 2. Twice the sum of, okay? 9 times out of 10, those are the key words that you will see whenever it indicates parentheses, at least for this stage of this concept. In later grades, it'll become more complex, but that's pretty much all you need to know. Okay, so if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 7.1.